Despite the stock market being down 25% this year and now hitting new lows as of today, billionaire investor Chamath Palihapitiya actually believes that we have reached a bottom or are very, very close to a bottom and is now starting to put a large sum of money back into the market. So in this video, I'm going to share with you this exact clip that he just mentioned this on his podcast the other day. And also I'm going to share with you another statistic that a lot of people do not think about for an argument that could absolutely send the markets flying over the next 6 to 9 months. So let's go ahead and hop into a screen share and I'll show you exactly what Chamath just stated.
And I said it last week, I'll go out on a limb and predict my equivalent November fall predictions. Last fall, it was that the markets were going to poop the bed. My prediction now is that I think the markets are bottoming and consolidating.
Yep, 100%.
And this is the time, I think, to start nibbling and start getting ready to really rip the money in. And I think there's enough signals every day that kind of like tell me at least that on the margin, it's time, because I think the markets do a reasonably good job of digesting news and then pricing the forward reality, right? Like today's price is really everything we already know. And so the real guess is what's about to happen in the future. And from my perspective, I'm actually starting to get a little constructive here. I think that when companies like Facebook really do this, and you know, like if you think about it one way, the financial markets have always had this thing that we have called a Fed put. What does that mean? A put is essentially the right to sell something. And what market participants have always known for the last decade is that if things got very hairy, if there was uncertainty in the market, the Federal Reserve would, and they have, consistently stepped in to create a buyer of last resort. And so it always eliminated that last part of true, supply-demand balance, because they would just come and say, don't worry. In many ways in tech, what the big tech companies were that. You could never really find what the true market clearing price for an engineer was, or what the true amount of expenses you should spend on office space or, free services, because you always had these companies, which was an escalating arms race. If one company had a massage, the next company had gyms and massage and physical therapists, and the other company would have buses to take you to the gyms and massage and therapists, and the next company would have protein shakes that were freshly made, and it just kept escalating and escalating because the costs didn't matter. And they wanted, if nothing else, to get that marginal engineer or product manager or business person to work at their company, which eliminated the risk that they would actually start something to disrupt them.
Blocker strategy is very real. You should unpack
the blocker strategy is very real. So when you take this big tech put out of the market, you will get true price discovery, and you will find out what the real price should be for this kind of an engineer, that kind of a product manager. You'll find out what are the real expenses you need to bear in order to build a real lasting business. And you'll be able to sort through all of that stuff out. So I think it's a really good moment. And again, it's yet another indication to me that I think broadly speaking, the markets are now starting to stabilize. All the irrational behavior is starting to exit the system. The party is in the last few hours. Volume's going down, the alcohol's being taken away, people are hanging around with a little bit, lights are coming on, they're like, oh, I've been here a little too long. And I think that that's a very healthy process for an economy. And I think that that's what's happening right now.
As you just heard in that video, Chamath is actually getting quite bullish on the stock market. And the main reason is because financial markets price in things in the future. So a lot of the times what happens, actually pretty much all the time, when there's forward-looking bad news or people believe the economy is going to be bad in the future, the stock market will actually bottom 6 to 9 months before the economy does. So a lot of people don't understand that the economy and financial markets are two separate things, and they can behave completely different and also bottom at different time periods. So a lot of the times the stock market and speculative assets will bottom well before the economy actually falls off a ledge and we have high unemployment. So that's Chamath's main argument. Now, one of my main arguments is the inflation data. So a lot of people don't understand that inflation data is actually shown in year-over-year growth. So what we do is we compare, like, last August we got the inflation, or yeah, this just, a month ago in August, we got the inflation data, right? And that inflation data was 8.3%. So the 8.3% is an 8.3% growth from the previous August. All right, so that's 8.3% higher than 12 months ago. Now, the thing is that people don't understand is we actually started to have really high inflation really starting in November, and then December we reached over 7% in 2021. So when we get to December of this year, which is just in a few months, in literally 2 months, then we're going to be comparing our year-over-year growth to now 7% inflation. So that if the inflation number is at least staying the same, if not going down a little bit, and what we're comparing it to goes up, then we're going to have much lower CPI inflation data that comes in the next 3 months or so, and especially in the next 6 months, because we're comparing it to really high inflation just a year ago. So we're going to start to get the effects of that. And what the reason why that matters is because the Fed is consistently increasing interest rates until the CPI numbers come down to 2%. Okay, so that's 2% year-over-year growth from just 12 months ago. So literally, we could really have a 7.5% inflation in January, and we would have a 0% CPI number. So that's why I'm starting to get bullish, because right when that does happen and the CPI numbers come way down, guess what the Fed is going to do? They're going to pivot. They're going to stop hiking rates, and they may even drop rates so there isn't massive deflation, because that can also wreak havoc on markets. So that's the big thing that I think is going to surprise a lot of people. I think we're more likely to see a much lower CPI number than people believe because of that particular angle that I just took there. Also, midterm elections are approaching fast. They are in November. And the crazy thing is, I just showed you that we're down 26% from all-time highs, which was just about a year ago now. But what happens is going into the midterms, we have an average decline of 19% of the year of the midterm. So going into midterms, they typically bottom in October. And guess where we're at? We're in October right now. Actually, today is October 11th. And again, we've had about a 26% decline. Meanwhile, the average is usually 19% going into midterms. Now, if we were to look a year after midterms, the average performance 12 months after midterms is 31.6% growth, which is really insane for the stock market. You typically have a really big rally in the stock market after midterm elections. So understanding this statistic right here, that markets usually boom right after midterm elections, which again is literally next month, and combining that with the CPI data, and then the video that Chamath just mentioned about how markets are so forward-looking, there could be a really big rally coming for the stock market, the bond market, commodities, and also cryptocurrencies. So let me know what your thoughts are on this video, and if you agree with Chamath and I that there could be a really big surprise rally. And I do want to mention before we end this video is this does not mean that there could not be a bigger dump in 2023 sometime, or in 2024 where there's a big ultimate sell-off because inflation picks way back up, or whatever, there's wars or whatever happens, right? He's talking more about a kind of a shorter term bottoming where there could be a really, really big rally that sends markets to new all-time highs. So let me know what your thoughts are on these three arguments that I just mentioned in this video. Would love to hear them in the comment section below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you here on this next video.